Hello and
Oh,
welcome. I'm Neil Thrussell, and I'm really excited because I get to interview Art Giser. He's the creator of the Energetic NLP, is an international renowned NLP trader. We're trading NLP, and an intuitive and master healer. So welcome, Art.
thank you, Neil. I love the little quotes you show at the beginning. That's
Yeah.
great.
So right out of the gate, what is energetic NLP? I know what NLP is, neuro linguistic programming, but what is energetic NLP?
Well, I've been an NLP trainer since 1985. I studied with all the developers, had one as my mentor. And about the same time, because this was in Northern California, there were people in the program who were studying energy work and intuition development and psychic development and healing and spirituality. And I'd always been interested in all of that, but they began to teach me things and introduce me to teachers. And I realized that you could do miraculous things with NLP. And like anything else, it had its limitations. You can do miraculous things with spiritual principles, healing and transformative energy work, but they all had their limitations. And I started weaving them together. And that was the birth of energetic NLP. So it brings together the neuro linguistic programming, spiritual principles, healing and transformative energy work, and intuition development.
Whoa, sounds completely powerful.
Yeah.
I'm headed to that website, and I'm sending my wife to that because she's a phenomenal healer, and
Oh,
yeah, I that's wonderful that you were guided to create this. So the there's a younger version of Art in your life,
mhm.
and what was his version of success? Your high school, your university, a very young version of Art. What did he think success looked like?
Well, actually, starting in elementary school, there were two main things that interested me. One was science, and the other was the powers of the unconscious mind, hypnotism, ESP. And I used to hypnotize my friends and cousins. But I was also very interested in science. And back in those days, we thought, uh, the atom and radioactivity was going to be the future of everything. And I wanted to be a scientist and work with radioactive materials. Well, years later, I did end up managing a research lab for the University of California Medical School in San Francisco. And we did use very weak radioactive materials to do our medical research. And I remember thinking, well, I guess I fulfilled that dream, but it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. But I wanted to change the world for the better. I wanted to come up with something new that would take things further. And for many years, I actually was quite stuck. And I had a good job. I could go to lunch and listen to Nobel laureates. While I'm eating my sandwich, I'm listening to Watson and Crick, who discovered the structured DNA, and all kinds of amazing people. And I worked with great people. I was proud of our work, but I knew I didn't belong there. I knew it wasn't what I should be doing. It wasn't the best use of me. And then I started studying. Well, I discovered NLP, and then I discovered the energy work and started putting it together. And so, I guess to answer your question, success to me was changing the world for the better, helping people, but and doing it in a way that felt like it was really an authentic use of the gifts that I came into this world with.
Thank you. So I heard you said that you knew that there was a difference so with this calling, was it palpable or what was it? Or was it just a little voice and you just knew, like this knowing that there was something different, that what you were doing was not quite fulfilling enough? What was this to you?
Well, I mean, it was obvious to me and to other people that again, I liked it. I wasn't passionate about it. And I think it's fine. People can choose work that they're not passionate about. Some people just choose what's convenient or safe or, a lot of, and I think that's totally fine if that's what you want. But I wanted to do something that was really unique and changing things in a much more powerful way. And so it was this nagging thing all the time that, well, actually, I had when I originally became a researcher, I had my degree and I thought, what do I do with it? Well, I'll become a researcher. and and I worked my way up to where I was managing this lab. But I never thought of it as like a long-term career. But I was just one of those people like, I don't know what I want to do with my life. And the humorous thing, and one thing I'm going to really promote to everybody: when you're stuck, go get a good coach. I mean, one of my students could go back in a time machine and have gotten me unstuck in 1 or 2 sessions at the most. So I spent years being stuck, and again, it was a good stuck. I had love, I had friends, I had good job, but it just wasn't where I wanted to be. And so for me, it was really important that I felt like, I think you can probably relate to this too. I had a feeling I was here for a reason, and that wasn't it.
So Art, you have a fan base. This is wonderful.
Thank you.
Uh, Lorena Tambini says Art is a very inspirational and a giver. His programs provide real transformation. So
Thank
there
you.
we go. So thanks, Lorena.
So I can stop now at a high point. I'll just
No, 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 no.
no. Okay.
So success. We all have someone in our mind what is the pinnacle of success. Um, the creators of NLP, the Tony Robbins,
Mhm.
any sports figure that you see that or know of, they've all achieved success greater or more or different than the average person. What do you think is one of the tools, or what separates from a cross point, or separates the wheat from the chaff, or what separates or gives them the difference from the average person?
Well, some of the things. So if we talk about Tony Robbins, and it's funny, we started. I think he started maybe a year or two before I did in NLP, which he did a little better with the marketing, I think. Um, and he always, he went to the best teachers he could find. He got the best coaches he could find, both in and outside of NLP, and then in other things. He, I'm taking a program from somebody who worked with Tony Robbins for years, and after every thing Tony did, he'd go, "What worked really well? What could we do better?" He said every time. So this constant, what's the term the Japanese use? Kaizen,
Yeah.
we're constantly looking for how do you get better. And I think for a lot of us, we were afraid. I used to like never watch videos of even though people would tell me they loved the class, I would get hypercritical if I watched myself. And there's like movie stars who won't watch their own movies and stuff. And somebody like Tony will, and he's always looking for how do you get better. So he's always learning, he's always getting coaching. And in his case, he has enormous drive. I mean, phenomenal drive. I don't have, and I don't want to have his level of drive. Um, and there are many people in the NLP field that I think are just as successful as Tony. They're not as well known, but they have different goals. So I mean, one goal is to be the mega success. Another is, well, I mean, what I'm trying to say is that we all have different levels of what we want. But what I think everybody I know that's super successful, they're constantly learning. They get great coaches. They take great programs, and they are willing to look in the mirror and go, that was great. That wasn't so good. What do I want to do? Or that was fine, but how can I do it better next time? And that sounds so obvious, but how many of us ever do it? You know?
Absolutely. What I love what you touched on is the looking in the mirror, the introspective piece, or retrospective, depends on when you're doing this, and understanding. And I think most successful people, and it doesn't matter how we define success, look and say, well, who am I? What am I? What tool sets do I have? And what tool sets do I need
Right.
to bring into this world?
Well, and for so many of us, we, I remember when I was really stuck. Psychology Today, I walked by a news stand, and there was a Psychology Today article or a magazine, and on the cover there was a target with an arrow in the bullseye in the center of it. And I don't remember the real title of it, but I remember this, The Horrors of Perfectionism, which is probably not the real title. I'd never, this is a long, long, long time ago. I'd never heard of perfectionism, but I remember looking at it and thinking, oh my God, that's, and one of the things that we emphasize in NLP is that ability to keep evolving and changing and not try to be perfect. And I think that's such a huge factor in success. You want to do really well, but if you are going to take apart everything you do because it wasn't at this fantasy standard, you just get discouraged and demotivated. And so for anybody listening, work with somebody if you're highly perfectionistic, because that's one of the things that really blocks people from having fun and helping lots of people and making a lot more money.
I in the the early 2000s, I went to a T. Harv Eckert seminar, and his was ready, fire, aim.
Right.
And
Right.
it was intentionally and meant to annoy the perfectionists, to say that if you don't ever fire, you're never going to get it done.
Yeah, there's another saying, version one is better than version none. And we learn a lot from so many really successful people completely failed. I mean, right now the company Intel isn't doing that well, but back when Andy Grove ran it, it was like the premier, one of the top high tech companies in the world. And initially, they were totally failing. And I'm blanking out on whose partner's name was, but they had a meeting together and they went, well, if a new board comes in, they're going to fire us. So let's pretend with the new people coming in, what can we do? And they completely changed the orientation of the company, and then everything worked. But only after they were like completely failing. And so many famous people completely just completely fell on their faces at different times, get back up, and they end up super successful.
And so how much do you think a willingness to fail forward helps successful people?
I think it's the rare successful person that, and they may be really unhappy or angry about failing, but they're willing to fail forward. But I want to be clear to everybody, you can say all your affirmations and all of that can help, and you can force yourself to think this way. It'll always be a struggle unless you clear and heal the unconscious programming and the energetic and spiritual programming. As everybody knows nowadays that we have unconscious programming. That one of my mentors used to go, he'd draw something on a board and he'd put a little dot and he goes, this is your conscious mind. And then he'd draw this huge circle around it. He goes, this is your unconscious mind. When they fight, who do you think wins? And so you want to work in the unconscious programming, but you also want to work with somebody who can work with you energetically and spiritually, because we are so programmed energetically since we're in our mother's womb. Our parents are programming us. They don't know they're doing it, but they're programmed to program us. But it's worse than that, because part of that programming is what they got from their parents and their grandparents and their great grandparents. So here we are in the 21st century, living in a world completely different than our ancestors. We have all this ancestral programming that struggles with us. So a lot of the work I do with people is clearing karma, energetic programming, spiritual contracts, and working with the unconscious programming. Then when you do your affirmations, when you change your conscious thinking, you multiply it by 1,000.
And that, yes, and that comes back to, the successful people are introspective and retrospective, so they look at all the pimples and warts that they have,
Right.
and they're, I suspect, reluctant willingness at sometimes to move forward in spite of the obstacles that is set upon them or is before them.
Well, I like to say that most of our big problems aren't even our problems. Again, when you absorb other people's energy, you're absorbing energy. Energy transmits information and programming. And if that
Yeah,
sounds weird to people, how do you think we're communicating right now? All communication is happening through energy transfer, whether we're talking in the same room or on a phone or on the internet like this. And when you absorb energy from other people, you're absorbing their emotional energy and their programming. So I'll have clients who go, I'm an anxious person. I've always been an anxious person. And, I've learned to be mindful and take deep breaths so I can handle it now, but it's just my genetics. And like I say, I was a researcher. I used to think it was all genetics too. And
yeah,
it turns out when they clear the energy that was never theirs of anxiety, all of a sudden they go, oh, that's different, and I don't feel so anxious. And it isn't that they never feel anxious, but they feel only their authentic anxiety. What happens is when we I know I'm tongue tied today. When we trigger our authentic emotions, it triggers other energy in our energy field that matches it, which is other people's emotions. So whether it's their grief or their fear or their anger or their irritation or any of those kind of emotional states that are not bad states, but they can limit us, all of a sudden you get swamped by other people's emotional energy. And then you go, I don't know what's wrong with me. Maybe it's
yeah,
genetic, you know. But when you learn to clear other people's energy, then you can deal with your authentic issues. Because I guarantee the people listening, all of the big problems in your life, that the internal problems, you can bet it's 90% not even your energy.
yep. And that's yeah, it's beautiful. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm being cognizant of the time. We still have time for some more, but holy smokes, is it going by fast? Um, so let's so what is your did we talk about I'm lost track of time. So have we talked about what is the current version of success for art? What do
Oh,
you
yeah. I mean, there's different levels of it for me. I mean, there's just, there's the financial level, like, particularly as I'm getting on in years, like, you know, if I live another, I mean, the scary thing nowadays is when you go like, I could live to be 110. Oh my God. It's like, um, so part of success for me is knowing that if I need caregivers for 20 years in the future, I can afford it, that I can live a good lifestyle, that I can help people financially and give donations where I want. I mean, that's one, and living somewhere that I like living is part of success for me. I love where I live. Um, but to me, the biggest part of it is, do I feel like I'm manifesting more? I believe everybody is a vast, powerful spiritual being. And, the art that you see is a portion of that being. And to me, success is manifesting more and more of who I really am, of that greater reality into my human life, so that I'm helping other people more, I'm helping the world more, and I'm having a more enjoyable life. And part of success to me is getting out of the old way of thinking that, you're not doing good unless you're sacrificing,
yeah,
which is kind of, who made up that rule? You know,
yeah,
I,
yeah,
when people help me, I like it if it somehow helps them. I don't.
yeah.
I like it a lot more than if they're sacrificing for me. You know?
Absolutely. So, unfortunately, we are so close to being out of time. So, I ask you, is there something that you would love to leave a little message or for our listeners and viewers, whether they're listening to it live or in replay? What would that be?
Well, what I'd like to leave them with is, I have a 4 series of audios that helps you clear other people's energy out of your space, clear unconscious programming, do a lot of phenomenal things. It's free. And it's if people go to Blockbuster, one word, Blockbuster with the number 7 dot, I'm doing it European style, blockbuster7.com. It's free, sign up, and over 4 days you'll get 4 videos that will teach you some basic but really powerful parts of energetic NLP. And going through the videos, you'll do a lot of clearing, a lot of transformation. I've been getting incredible feedback from people on it. So I want to leave that as a very practical way to move forward. The other thing I'd again like to really advise people when, well, not just when you're stuck in life. Again, you talk about someone like Tony Robbins. He's always gone to the best people he could find to study with, to coach him. He's had plenty of coaches. Um, he's always having other people help him. Uh, in the movie, what's his movie? I'm Not Your Guru.
Yep.
It's great. It shows a scene with him and his team, and he's asking them for their ideas and their feedback. So being open to, now you have to follow, ultimately you have to follow your own guidance, but getting feedback from other people, getting great coaching, learning, taking great courses. Other than falling in love, every major wonderful thing that happened in my life was because either through a coach or a program. So
Wonderful. Thank you, Art, for taking the time out of your busy schedule and to sharing with the listeners and viewers. Thank you.
well, what a pleasure. And I love the energy you've set for this whole event. And it's got a lot of heart space in it. And so I want to really thank you for what you're doing.
You're most welcome.
And thanks everybody.